Now, I don't really think, but that's just my little world, that these changes are going to be effective this open enrollment. We spoke yesterday with our team, and we've been doing a lot of research and talking with the leadership of Florida Blue. Really, we know that we're probably going to end up in this 45-day enrollment window, which we talked about last week. And that's going to be challenging. That's going to make some changes. But we really need to see what these other changes are going to be with changing the ratio of cost, changing the minimum essential benefits, and then after they get all of these approvals for whatever the hell they're going to get approved, they have to have carrier involvement. And with that carrier involvement, the carriers are going to have to restructure. We're going to have to see what they're going to talk about with a renewal process. And I had a pretty long conversation with an agent last night who does quite a bit of volume. And, when we spoke about it, if they change the subsidy, and the way that the subsidies work based upon age and income, they're talking about expansion of Medicaid and all of those other good things. Well, if they make and implement all those changes, they may extend the 45-day window. Because if they're going to change Mrs. Jones' subsidy to not be part of her income or a percentage of her income, and they're going to give her a flat rate, because that's one of the things they're talking about is, based upon your age, giving you a flat rate of subsidy, well, that's going to inherently make a huge change in their cost, especially when you layer in the 5-to-1 ratio and the 3-to-1 ratio. So does everybody understand what that's a big change? Does everybody understand what that change that they're talking about with the ratio of cost? Or maybe I should ask it the other way. Does anybody not understand what that ratio of cost and how that could impact our members and the overall cost of insurance for many of our folks? It's only one person. Everybody else gets it? No, two. Okay. So what happens is that let's rewind back to the days of underwriting. Yes, there used to be underwriting, and in those days, it would bounce around, about 6-to-1, 8-to-1, and what that really meant was the ratio of difference in cost between a 20-year-old and a 60-year-old. That's the easiest way for us to understand it and to explain it to your members. Now, what they had back then, so we go back, rewind, and we had a big spread. So that means that the 20-year-old was paying $100 a month for a policy, and the 60-year-old bought the same policy. It's probably paying like $600 or $700 a month, and that's where you get a ratio of 6-to-1 or 7-to-1, right? So then, fast forward to Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act release. Well, one of the things that they did was they changed the ratio, and they made it from 3-to-1. So therefore, the people who didn't want to buy insurance, the 20-year-old, the invincible person, the person who doesn't want any coverage whatsoever and doesn't want to pay for it, well, their rates significantly increased. And in the infinite wisdom of our political parties and the landscape of the Affordable Care Act, they said, well, why are we not able to get all of these 20-year-old healthy people to enroll? Well, because the cost is too damn expensive. You're trying to get a 20-year-old to pay $200 or $300 a month for coverage. They don't want coverage anyway. So that ratio changed, making it more affordable for our 50 to 60-year-old customers who definitely have more utilization, are definitely out there as we get older, more morbidity, mortality, all of that stuff starts increasing, and there's more utilization at the higher age, which is obvious. So the subsidies offset that, somewhat. But, if you were a 21 or 22-year-old and you're making decent money, which, that's, far-fetched anyway, then you were probably not getting a subsidy, not getting any help, and you were still paying $250 as we see now. That's just the way it works. It's expensive for a young family. Where an old family, you see them getting a subsidy, and I don't mean older, sorry, an older family, with, 50-year-old parents or somewhere in that age, they may be getting a subsidy of $500-$600 a month, and that makes it a little bit more affordable. But realistically, it changed the mindset of everybody to where, oh, well, insurance is supposed to be $20 a month. Well, no, not the way that it works. So fast forward to what's going to happen in the future. One of the things they're really sticking to is this ratio of 5-to-1. So somewhere balanced in the middle. But that's going to increase the rates for our older community. And the people that are in their 60s and getting ready for Medicare, utilizing the policies, those rates are going to go up. And then what they're talking about doing is lowering the subsidy and making it a flat dollar amount subsidy, which is also going to impact those same people. So lowering the amount of money that they're getting, increasing the cost of the insurance, double whammy, we're going to have a lot of pissed off people. But my philosophy, as I always stick to, is change comes opportunity. And because there's going to be indecision, because people are going to have to look at lower cost options, they're going to have to look at solutions that are going to satisfy their family's coverage. You're going to have to get to use a calculator more and more, looking at new policies that they're talking about in, increasing HSA amounts and allowing people to purchase HSA policies on a more tax favorable basis, being able to write off more of those monies that they're putting into their HSA account to pay their deductible or out-of-pocket expenses. Really transferring some of that risk to the insured as opposed to, the insurance carrier, the government, and all of where they're going to get all this money. God only knows. Heaven itself only knows if it's going to continue to the same capacity that it's in now, how that is going to really impact the country, because it just can't continue in the exact same way that it is. So we've got those changes that are going to come out. We've got, changes where they're talking about, criteria for the network, and network affiliation is going to come out, where, the number of doctors, may change, and, network access may change. So a lot of different things are, on the docket to see what's going to happen, and we're really going to have to just kind of hold our breath, keep our eye on it, and see what happens. Now, I will tell you that probably by next Thursday, when we have our next call, we'll have a little bit more information. Actually, next Thursday will be, what's the date? Oh, hold on, let me just check. We might not have a call next week. No, we won't have a call next week because we'll be up in Jacksonville. So the following week, we'll have some more information for you. So that'll be the first week in April. We'll have a little bit more information with you because Gigi and myself are going to the Field Advisory Council, where we'll get a chance to talk with leadership, discuss a lot of the things that are going on, the changes, and how they're going to impact us. But I really don't foresee that a lot of those changes that they're going to implement are really going to affect us in this open enrollment. There's not a lot of rumbles about other carriers moving into the marketplace, which is, it's bad. We would prefer to have some competition so that way we can, get a higher compensation level. We are talking with leadership about, what is the renewal process going to look like this year? Because if they do move to a 45-day enrollment window, the active renewal process is really not going to be the way that we're going to be able to do things. There's just not going to be enough time. So, as we get closer, I know that sounds crazy, but we'll let you know. But really what you have to think about is there's not a lot of time left. You really only have about 7 months or 6 months until we are knee-deep back into it, writing policies. And really until we know the real skinny, you're going to have to think about your teams and focusing on Medicare and focusing on ACA and what's going to be best suited for your teams and your agents, because doing both is going to be near impossible in a 45-day window if you're going to be successful. You'll be mildly successful, but what we find, and I'm sure you guys, all of your agency owners will agree, the agencies and the agents that are trying to do both will do both kind of, excuse my expression, but half-assed. It's just a lot to understand and a lot to know. So having those teams segmented from one to the other is going to make a big change. So are there any questions that, that you guys are coming up against when it comes to the changes and, people throwing their hands up and saying, hey, I don't want to enroll, the individual mandate's not going to be there, you just can't get the folks engaged in the conversation because of all of these things? Because, one of the things that we're using as a sales tool is really there may be some sort of grandfathering that's involved in this. So getting people involved and getting them enrolled, if they have an SEP, because the SEPs are tight now. They're talking about in July a further tightening of SEPs, which is going to be crazy. I don't know how much tighter they can get. And really that's going to put a kibosh on any of the things that we're trying to fix. where there's been marketplace errors or carrier errors. So we're going to have to see how that works out as well. But in your conversations with your clients, new business clients, people who are coming through, what are you guys experiencing, or are you finding that you're having troubles communicating some of these changes? Questions coming out from Paul. Good morning. If prices are released in September and we are allowed to do active renewals in September, then there will be time. Otherwise, there's troubles. I completely agree. However, remember, we're dealing with the marketplace, Paul. So, the marketplace is not open, then you can't do it. So what they're going to, if they're going to change this enrollment window and they're going to make all of these other subsequent changes, I think that, and I hope, sweet baby Jesus, I hope that somebody says to them, with all of these changes that are going on, and we are going to make these changes for this enrollment season, we've got to give these agents and the community more time, because there's going to be confusion. And, we're just getting people comfortable with the marketplace enrollment and a quick path of enrollment and renewal, and now they're going to make all these changes, so people are going to have a lot of questions, therefore increasing the time frame of a sales process, and that's going to be interesting, to say the least. But in the same thing to what Paul's saying is, if prices are released in September and we could do them now, what you also have to remember is we can continue to make those changes after open enrollment if it's income changes. So even if we only had from November 1st to December 15th, and folks are passively renewed into their new plan, which would save us a lot of time. Of course, if there was some level of compensation for a passive renewal that made sense, and that makes a big difference, we could always revisit those clients after December 15th that we couldn't get to, and change their, their income. If their income changes, hopefully that still effectuates an SEP. And if they wanted to change their plan, then that will make a difference. But sit tight, wait, and we'll see what happens. I briefly touched on when we got on the call about the short-term medical product. So legislation for short-term medical goes into effect on 4/1, meaning that any new short-term medical product that is written can only be written for a maximum of a 3-month window. I spoke with Kelly James, who is the kind of communicator between the government departments and Blue Cross yesterday, and asked him, I said, well, what do you think that they're going to do? Are they going to pull this law and allow people to have longer short-term medical policies? And his response was, it's pretty good. And he basically said that with all of the other changes that are going on, it's kind of low down in the totem pole. So what's going to happen moving forward right now, you've got an opportunity for the next 6 days to write policies in a short-term capacity for longer than 6 months. But then after 4/1, you will have to renew it every 3 months, writing a new policy. Now, the problem with that is that does open up people, and they become susceptible to pre-existing condition clauses, because if they had a heart attack while they're on the short-term medical policy, that's not going to be covered on the new policy as well. So it's important that, you're building that urgency. You're trying to find those SEPs. You're getting those folks enrolled. You do and should understand that with the off-marketplace sales, you are not required to provide the documentation for the SEP, but you have to hold it. I was asked that question just the other day again. That's why I'm bringing it up. So you do want to be careful. Again, it's not an invitation to, jux the rules and to really just go off like a wild child and do whatever you want and write everybody you can, because just be advised that if someone does end up with significant claims, you're probably going to be asked to produce that documentation. And failure to produce that documentation when requested will be termination of the policy, just like if it was on the marketplace. Question coming in from Bill. Good morning, Bill. How are you? Does the new law get rid of the marketplace? Not that what I'm seeing. I am hopeful that, over the next few years that may change. But as far as this enrollment season, I do not foresee the elimination, shall we call it, of the marketplace. But who knows? I mean, we'll see. That's it's a process, and nobody really knows. But everything that I've seen and everything that I'm reading, They're not talking about eliminating that because they look at it as an application system. And hopefully the carriers will all get together and agents and everyone will be talking about, of course, getting rid of that, because most of our problems that we're hearing about are the problems from and stemmed from marketplace communications, no matter who you talk to. So it's, every carrier, every agent throughout the country feeling the same thing. So hopefully they dissolve it. The other part of that makes that nice for dissolving the marketplace is then, you're just like we used to do. You may quote them. You could look at some different platforms to see what other quotes may be out there in the marketplace, but you go straight into Blue Cross, process the application. Hopefully they let the carrier, deal with all of the other stuff as well. One of the other things they're talking about, Bill, is changing the enrollment season, which would be nice. Instead of, doing this, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, 45-day, one of the proposals that they put on the table, I believe, was a 2-year open enrollment season. And then after that, it would be your typical SEPs for those changes. I believe one of the decent changes that they talked about was also having the open enrollment be on the birth date of an individual, as opposed to just in this mass enrollment period. So all different kinds of proposals. What comes out on the other end? Again, nobody knows. Question coming in from Sarah. Good morning. This is an SEP question, everyone. If an employee voluntarily leaves their group health plan, will that trigger an SEP? Well, it's a very interesting question, because it depends on, of course, a few scenarios. So voluntarily leaving their group plan doesn't normally give you an SEP, because you terminated your employee benefit package. The other thing you have to think about in that question that Sarah's asking about an employee voluntarily leaving their group plan is, what is the cost of the group insurance? Because even though you may be able to exercise an SEP for them, because, you're going to get a letter of credible coverage, no big deal. They left their plan. They jump onto your policy now. You got a letter of credible coverage. You get them enrolled. You send it to the marketplace. Boom, beautiful. But at that point, if they have the family glitch, if they have affordable coverage at work, at the end of the year when they file their taxes, they could be susceptible to paying back all or a portion of that subsidy. So you have to be really careful with that. Just the act of the voluntarily leaving the group plan doesn't do it. I mean, it'll work, but, realistically, you have to examine the family glitch before that happens. Now, if they did do that, they enroll in your plan, and then when they open enrollment comes through again, they would have to go back to that group plan again, or be impacted by the family glitch, because that could be a problem. We don't want anybody having that. Now, that's for Medicare. It could. So, but what you have to understand is, for Medicare, if they're voluntarily leaving, that's, again, it's going to be that's a lot easier. If they can get off the group plan and they have a Medicare and they have A and B, they recently lost coverage, you will then be able to exercise that for Medicare, typically without a problem. Question coming in from Terry. Good morning. Do you think that pre-existing conditions are going to come back? Don't foresee that. One of the things that Trump and all of the legislative bodies have been talking about is not is one of the things they're really not going away from is guaranteed issue provisions, pre-existing conditions being covered. So I don't think you're going to see that return. All right. Yes, Paul, I agree. If they change that open enrollment period to the birth month or something along the side, like a Medicare, that would definitely help, where they can make changes during open enrollment, but they have that, obviously enrollment window as well. Who knows? We're going to see. I can tell you what I do know is I do know that I don't know the real answer. It's all hearsay now. So, I try and keep my eye on every different news channel because everybody's saying something different. And then today, of course, we'll see what happens. Customer service, 8,000-pound gorilla in the corner, seems to be slowing down a little bit. However, we are noticing that some policies are being terminated for no real rhyme or reason. So it's going to be really important. You as agency owners really impacted significantly on this. Agents, hardcore. And that is, making sure that you are checking your book of business on a regular basis. Now, that when I say checking your book of business, I mean looking for temporary ID cards, very important, on a regular basis. Checking your search accounts, even though search accounts is not accurate, it does give you a little bit of a line of sight of what may be going on. We've seen more terminations coming through, communication problems between the marketplace as well as Blue Cross. Blue Cross's, interpretation of marketplace files, all having a problem, all causing issues, but those issues are slowing down. So we are seeing that. We're seeing that, the APO pauses. Hopefully you're talking to your customers, you're getting them all back on APO, you're getting them paid. We're just really getting with our customer base, making sure that we get into their member account, checking their ID cards, just making sure everything is right. The last thing in the world you want to do is wait until you get your commission statement. The unfortunate level of communication with the carrier and to the agent on terminations of policies, on chargebacks and things of that nature, we really don't get good communication from our partner at Florida Blue. So therefore, the only way that you can be aware of what's going on is staying on top of it. So just really monitoring your search accounts, asking your agents, did they get paid right? It's a big deal. Did they get paid for a renewal when it was supposed to be a new piece of business? Was it a new piece of business and they got paid the opposite way? Did they never get paid? Are you looking at chargebacks that have come through that a policy that was reinstated? That's another big deal. We've got a lot of customers that we're identifying that, they were enrolled, they got terminated for, the APO fiasco. We rewrote them, but we reinstated that policy. We've got a chargeback, and now we're waiting for the new commissions to run through, and, we're not seeing them. So, this is probably one of the hardest times that we're all dealing with, and monitoring your books of business and doing regular audits almost on a monthly basis is the only way that you could really watch it. I've asked and begged the help of our teams here, all of our agents to go through their commission statements and look at them, and just making sure that it's right. Because we know we're going to find missing applications. We know that we're going to see a lot of different things that are happening, that are just incorrect. So you have to make sure that you're watching it. Very important. I'm seeing chargebacks for policies that were never paid in the first place. Terry, I don't know how long you've been writing with Florida Blue, but I would look back at old commission statements. You've got to look at that. And, I believe if you've got questions on your commission statements or interpreting that, there's really nobody better than Giggy. Shoot her an email, that way maybe you guys can get together and talk a little bit about it, because, we're just really trying to make sure that everybody got paid for every and all the work that you've done. So very important there. So when it comes to customer service, let's kind of open up the the questions here. Are you having major hurdles? Are you having issues that just don't make sense that we may want to talk about as a group? Because if you're having those issues, I'm sure someone else is as well. We know that we've got customer service issues with the My Blue network in the Palm Beach County area. Just access to care, getting into the doctor's offices can be challenging at times because we have, a very sculpted network when, people need to get out to their specialists are not being able to go through that. No, Bill, they're not doing that. They're not doing that advanced commissions and taking back half. That's not something that's going on this year. They eliminated that. Bill's asking if they were paying an advance on commissions this year and then reversing them as they did last year. Agent Service Center service support has declined dramatically. I don't know if I understand that. I know you're making a statement, Ellen, but are you saying that the level of their support or their answers have, or just the volume that you're getting? It makes me nervous if, when our customer service declines dramatically internally, it makes me nervous that people have thrown their hands up and just saying, I'm not even going to deal with this anymore. And I mean, on one side, that's the, my negative outlook. On the positive outlook, I'm saying, okay, well, things are getting resolved. We are getting more engagement from Florida Blue, reaching out to our customer base, talking to them, getting their bills in line, getting things straightened out. We've had some people getting calls with apologetic Florida Blue reps, so that's good as well, for things that are going on. So they did add some Skillsoft for new agents that you should get out there and take a look at that. So that's definitely something that you want to make sure that you're watching those agent service bulletins and making sure that you're on top of that. They're also, as we spoke about in the beginning of our conversation, the chronic needs plan and the reach out on that with the direct mail. That's also going on, also located in your news and information. I have had members insist that CVS will not take their RX. That's because CVS is not in network. So that's correct. So they should be going to Walgreens. So CVS is accepted on our Medicare policies, Peter. It's not our preferred pharmacy in our Medicare policies, but under 65, CVS is out. They can no longer see CVS. So if they're telling you that the members insist that CVS will not take their prescriptions, that would be correct. They need to use Walgreens or one of our other network pharmacies, but CVS is not participating. Ellen, you didn't follow up, so hopefully I addressed what you had mentioned, but I still don't understand if you meant the support of, I talked to Agent Service, and I had a conversation yesterday with the head of Agent Service Center. I voiced to her some of my concerns. So again, Ellen, are you saying that their support has declined, or are you saying that the number of calls have declined? I just want to be clear in understanding that, so that way I can communicate that back to leadership. Both. Okay. All right, so are we having any other challenges, customer service? It's beautiful. It's great. Either that or everybody's sleeping this morning. So any other questions that anybody has, just open up the floor to any other questions, concerns, challenges. Is everybody feeling good today? All right. Well, that being said, I hope everybody has a great day today. So next week, we're going to terminate the call for next week. We won't have one because we'll be up in Jacksonville. We'll catch up the following week and hopefully have a lot of good information for everybody and kind of go from there. So hope everybody has a great week. Let's sell lots. Make sure you monitor those clients and have a good day. Thank you.